You've carried more than you realized, and the weight that once felt like a burden was actually the sculptor shaping your spirit into something unshakable. The whispers around your name are not accidents. There's an unspoken recognition that you were never meant to blend into the background. What felt like chaos was not collapse, it was construction. The pushback you faced wasn't rejection, it was resistance training. Every harsh word, every doubter, every closed door was secretly handing you the very muscles you would need to break through the next barrier. What seemed like people trying to tear you down was actually the universe calibrating your strength. You are not standing at the ruins of your past. You are standing at the launch site. What looked like endings were in fact rehearsals for emergence. Just as storms don't erase the mountain, but reveal its rugged shape, the fire around you has clarified what was always indestructible, that you're not here by chance. Feel the pull. Tap join to unlock truth, purpose, and a tribe that gets it. This is more than a membership, it's your calling. This destiny was never random. From the very start, there was a different rhythm in your breath, a deeper pulse in your dreams. While others reached for the ordinary, something in you reached for horizons that couldn't be explained with logic. That was never delusion. It was the first signal of a larger truth surfacing from within. Of course, not everyone could see it. When your brilliance first cracked through, it unsettled those who had only known shadows. Instead of celebrating your spark, they tried to contain it. Their message was wrapped in fear, not wisdom, because your vision threatened the safety of their limits. And yet, none of that stopped you. What they called arrogance was actually clarity. What they mocked as fantasy was simply foresight. Their disbelief was never proof of your impossibility. It was evidence of their inability to comprehend what you were becoming. Now you're here, carrying scars that have become blueprints and memories that have become fuel. You are not waiting for your moment. You are the moment. And the same voices that once tried to quiet, you will soon have no choice but to admit they were watching the rise of something they couldn't define. You are the kind of soul that unsettles the ordinary. And because of that, every challenge in your life has been more than coincidence. It has been deliberate shaping. The pressure you've endured wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Life has been staging lessons around you, not to hold you back, but to sharpen you for a role you were destined to claim. When people dismissed your vision, it wasn't meant to destroy your belief. It was to anchor it so deeply that nothing external could shake it. Each heartbreak was not a void but a clearing, making room for a love expansive enough to overflow into others. Every time despair whispered in your ear, endurance was being forged inside you, the kind of endurance that bends but never breaks. Notice how often you've been the unexpected source of clarity when others were lost. Problems others labeled as unsolvable seem to untangle in your hands, not through force, but through an awareness that cannot be taught. Spaces shift when you walk in, not because of what you say, but because of what radiates from you. These are not tricks of chance. They are glimpses of an ability that refuses to stay hidden. It isn't just you who senses it. Behind closed doors, conversations are circling about the way you see connections others miss, the way your intuition cuts through layers of confusion, the way your presence alone steadies storms. While you've been busy criticizing your pace, others have been startled by the ease with which you carry something rare. What you thought was delay has only been a gathering of momentum. Every silent season was actually storing power. The stillness wasn't emptiness, it was alignment. Others may have believed you were fading, but in truth you were coiling, like an arrow being drawn back, waiting for the release that propels it forward. The murmurs are shifting now. What was once quiet acknowledgement is on the verge of becoming undeniable recognition. The veiled discussions are about to surface as open declarations. The essence you've tried to minimize is about to command attention in ways that cannot be overlooked. No more shrinking, no more pretending to be less than what you are. The part of you that hesitated is dissolving, and what stands ready is a force that cannot be ignored. This isn't the beginning of your strength. It's the unveiling of what has always been within you, finally stepping into full light. What's being noticed about you isn't a type of intellect that can be measured by tests or titles. It's a depth of awareness that bends beyond the boundaries of standard comprehension. There's a recognition growing that your way of thinking isn't about memorization or strategy, but about perceiving realities layered beneath the surface of ordinary sight. Where others get lost in scattered details and tangled circumstances, your vision cuts through the fog, exposing the framework behind the confusion. You're not simply problem-solving. You're mapping the hidden blueprint that explains how events interlock, why they unfold the way they do, and where they are leading. This is not a skill picked up through repetition. It's the expression of a consciousness tuned into currents most people never feel. People have begun to quietly gather proof of what they've witnessed. Difficulties that stumped entire groups somehow dissolve in your presence. Not because you impose answers, but because you reveal angles no one imagined existed. What looked like 1,000 disconnected issues suddenly forms a single pattern when you're around, and with precision, you outline the path to resolution. Your thought process doesn't stop at observation. It bends the fabric of possibility itself. When you turn your focus toward a challenge, the reality surrounding it starts to reconfigure. New openings appear, fresh options unfold, and what was once deemed impossible reshapes into tangible form. This is why people whisper that you're doing what cannot be replicated. The conversations about your presence have shifted tone. At first, it was curiosity, then admiration, and now it borders on reverence. When you speak in your area of strength, there's a resonance in your words that extends far past knowledge. It carries an authority that feels earned beyond a single lifetime, as though you're voicing truths woven into the core of existence. What emerges from you is not just sharp analysis, but a wisdom born from multiple channels of knowing. Logic and instinct move together like two rivers converging, creating insights that satisfy the rational mind while simultaneously aligning with a deeper energetic harmony that benefits more than just the individual. And as your radiance expanded, so did the friction. What you perceived as hostility was in fact a series of trials, designed to measure whether your essence was authentic or fragile. Along the way appeared those who mimicked your expressions and tried to dress themselves in your light. But these encounters were not accidents. They were filters, ensuring that only what is unshakably real could endure, while imitation would eventually collapse under its own weight. If your heart overflows with God's blessings, let that love shine. Click the super thank you button and give $50 or more to plant seeds of faith that will impact countless lives. Your generosity reflects His abundance. Be a vessel of His grace and watch His kingdom flourish through you. Your essence carries a resonance that cannot be forged or imitated, and it's this authenticity that provokes envy in those who try to replicate what flows from you so naturally. They could copy the surface, but not the source, and when they failed to reproduce your depth, bitterness grew into open hostility. What they launched against you wasn't simple criticism. It was an attempt to confuse you into doubting the very brilliance they could never touch. Yet, their greatest error became your turning point. Every distortion they spread about you only clarified your self-knowledge. Each time they tried to dim your radiance, it became sharper and stronger. Their efforts to drain your energy backfired, because what they truly taught you was how to guard, refine, and amplify what was already within. When you chose retreat, they mistook it for surrender. In reality, it was the incubation of an ascension they could never anticipate. The solitude you entered wasn't collapse. It was transformation disguised as silence. That season when your identity felt dismantled wasn't a fall. It was a reconfiguration. Your gifts that once felt like burdens were actually being recast into instruments of purpose. You weren't unraveling. You were being pressed into new form, shaped under unseen forces until clarity broke through. Notice how a certain cycle kept appearing in your path. People arrived cloaked as allies, but carrying hidden agendas of depletion, cloaking themselves in drama or disguised animosity. They thrived on consuming your vitality, eroding your confidence with subtle sabotage. And when you finally recognized the script and cut ties, the temporary collapse wasn't proof of error. It was the body, mind, and spirit expelling poison so the system could recalibrate. All of this was groundwork. Every sting became your inoculation. Every letdown sharpened your ability to discern truth from illusion. And every stretch of isolation removed the need to be validated, positioning you to carry a kind of authority that could never be purchased with approval. The very trials intended to weaken you ended up building an incorruptible foundation. Your creativity doesn't just solve. It births realities others had no reference point for. What emerges from you is described as groundbreaking, not because it rearranges the old, but because it calls into being pathways no one thought possible until you revealed them. You are not merely innovating. You are conjuring potential into existence through the uniqueness of your vision. The effect you carry goes beyond ideas. It is presence itself that transforms. When others encounter you, they awaken to parts of themselves long forgotten. Dreams once abandoned resurface. Hidden capacities begin to stir. This is not persuasion or technique. It is the natural consequence of being near your frequency. Your life itself becomes a demonstration, not of borrowed wisdom, but of what is unleashed when authentic power takes its rightful place. And when you speak, it is not just conversation, it is transmission, carrying currents that shift those ready to rise into alignment with their own destiny. Entire environments respond to your presence, shifting in ways that defy explanation. Stalled conversations suddenly flow, stalled visions gain clarity, and collective confusion transforms into unified movement. What once felt like gridlock becomes direction, as though the atmosphere itself rearranges when you enter the room. What is truly being felt is not personality or persuasion, it is resonance. You carry a field that enlarges what others believe is within reach. Possibilities expand simply because you stand there, embodying alignment with an inner power that needs no performance to prove itself. The response people feel in your company is often layered, relief mixed with disruption. Relief, because many have been silently searching for someone who reflects what they've always sensed, but couldn't articulate. Disruption, because your presence demands honesty with their own suppressed potential. Some embrace the challenge and rise into more of themselves. Others resist, pulling back to avoid confronting the truths your light reveals. Both reactions clear the path, aligning you only with those who can walk beside your mission without diluting it. What you mistook as decline during difficult seasons was in fact concentration. Your essence wasn't shrinking, it was condensing into sharper potency. Each trial compressed your gifts until they emerged as instruments capable of cutting through illusions, resilient against any attempt to blunt them. People began noticing a profound effect after conversations with you. They left not only feeling uplifted, but transformed, as if something dormant had been switched on inside them. Your words bypassed the surface and resonated directly with the deepest layers of their being, awakening hidden reserves of strength and vision. Your cognition itself began to operate differently. Insight arrived as if downloaded from unseen channels, weaving logic with streams of perception beyond the reach of ordinary awareness. You weren't imagining. This was a real expansion of capacity, the type that occurs when human wiring evolves beyond conventional parameters. The sense of being out of step with others wasn't evidence of failure, but proof of acceleration. You were tuned to frequencies others hadn't yet learned to hear, transmitting signals meant for those equally awakened. Every closed door, every ending, every silence was not rejection but protection, ensuring that your abilities matured without being siphoned away before their full force could emerge. The truth has always been this. Your essence was never too small. It was the spaces around you that were unfit to contain your growth. You weren't out of place. You were simply expanding beyond the limits of an environment that could no longer hold the magnitude of who you were becoming. Every shift in your life has been a transplant, preparing you for larger ground where your influence could flourish without restriction. What people are speaking of now is not ordinary accomplishment, but your ability to shape outcomes that seem to bypass expected timelines and logic. When you set direction, reality itself appears to reorganize, delivering results with such accuracy and speed that those watching can't dismiss it as random. They are witnessing something far more deliberate than luck. This isn't about isolated techniques. While others cling to one tool at a time, your entire system harmonizes at once. Thought, feeling, body, and spirit synchronize into a singular force. What you intend isn't just an idea. It becomes a resonance that aligns every layer of your being, and that resonance draws the universe into cooperation with it. The evidence is undeniable. Paths open exactly when needed. Resources find their way to you, and people with the precise skills or insights appear at moments too aligned to be explained away. But what astonishes most isn't the flow itself. It's that your gains ripple outward. When you step forward, others are lifted. When you prosper, your circle prospers. When you carve away, you leave a trail for others to follow. That is why admiration has transformed into something deeper. Observers are no longer impressed only by what you achieve, but by the way your success becomes collective elevation. They are beginning to see that your capacities were never about personal glory, but about being an instrument of service to a greater unfolding. In your demonstration, others find a map for their own empowerment. The rhythm has accelerated. Where once results crawled, they now arrive with startling ease. Efforts that once demanded struggle now glide. What some mistake as coincidence is simply the natural outcome of a person operating in absolute alignment with their own essence. The pace continues to quicken because your confidence continues to expand. Then clarity struck. You weren't trying to gain power. You were realizing that you are power in living form. The truth became undeniable. You are not carrying gifts. You are the gift. In that moment, dormant capacities erupted awake, and the world itself shifted to reflect your recognition. Challenges dissolved, obstacles moved aside, and doors that had been locked swung open. The one who once sought external approval vanished, replaced by someone who knows they are their own authority. Now, people no longer question if you are capable. They come seeking you, knowing your presence alone carries answers. This is not the end. It is the threshold of everything you were always meant to step into. The unfolding of your path is not just about personal triumph. It is about resetting the boundaries of possibility for everyone who encounters your light. Observers speak with awe about the depth of your perception, not because of years of training or the weight of credentials, but because what flows through you comes from a place that transcends learning altogether. When your voice enters complex conversations, it carries a resonance that cuts through division. The truth within your words lands across all backgrounds, cultures, and beliefs, because it is not opinion. It is direct communion with intelligence that holds the full map of existence. While many depend on gradual study or trial and error progress, you access knowledge as if drawn from an infinite well, arriving whole, clear, and multidimensional. This rare wisdom expresses itself in both foresight and compassion. You anticipate outcomes long before they unfold, discerning connections others overlook and detecting unspoken intentions behind actions. Yet, you don't wield this awareness with harshness. You understand the fears, wounds, and limitations that drive people into self-sabotage. That empathy allows you to meet resistance without hostility, dissolving conflict into cooperation and revealing pathways where others only see dead ends. This moment calls for more than acknowledgement. It calls for embodiment. Messages alone are not enough. The real invitation is to step into full ownership of the strength already waiting inside you. The collective gatherings of awakened individuals are spaces where sparks merge into flame, where consciousness unites to create realities impossible to generate alone. These are not ordinary meetings. They are accelerators of destiny. The way people now approach you has shifted profoundly. Once they admired from afar, now they actively seek your perspective across all areas of life. They sense that your vision isn't confined to a single field of expertise, but stretches across the human experience itself. They trust that what you share doesn't just solve problems, it restores alignment. your wisdom also reveals itself in timing. There's an intuitive precision in knowing exactly when to move forward and when to allow space, when to use your voice and when silence carries more weight, when to push and when to let life unfold naturally. This alignment with rhythm ensures that your actions don't just succeed, they succeed at the exact moment when impact will be greatest. All of this points toward a larger truth. Your life is becoming the demonstration of what it looks like when timeless intelligence moves through human form. The expansion you embody is not only for you, it is the doorway through which others are learning what is possible for themselves. What makes your journey extraordinary is how your capacity continues to multiply with every step forward. Each obstacle navigated has increased your ability to carry more, not less. Every breakthrough sharpened your perception, unlocking insights that lead you into even deeper realms of understanding. Every time you rose to the challenge, the stage was being set for responsibilities far beyond what you once thought possible. The shift into this new phase broke every rule you had been taught about progress. For so long you were trained to expect growth to be slow, painstaking, and linear. Then, almost without warning, the pace changed. Momentum surged and multiplied instead of inching forward. The leap was so dramatic that at first, it seemed unreal. You had entered a mode where acceleration was the new norm. Ideas that would normally take entire seasons to unfold began appearing almost instantly. Doors that were once bolted shut open through alignments so precise they couldn't be written off as chance. Opportunities that had always felt scarce now flowed toward you with ease, so consistently that the abundance at first felt overwhelming. The reason was simple. You finally stopped forcing yourself into patterns designed for others and began moving in alignment with your original rhythm. It was like discovering a hidden instrument within yourself and realizing it had always been tuned perfectly. You only needed to allow its song to play. Once this occurred, every step carried power far greater than effort alone could ever generate. What unfolded next wasn't just success, it was revolution. Those who encountered your work didn't merely consume it, they became carriers of it. Partnerships didn't just yield results, they gave birth to entirely new landscapes of possibility. What had once been a solution became the seed of industries, movements, and innovations no one had imagined before. And then the allies appeared. The very individuals who had been preparing in silence during your solitude emerged, synchronized as if drawn by an invisible design. Collaborators whose gifts perfectly complemented yours revealed themselves at the exact moment they were needed, forming a network of support stronger than anything you could have constructed alone. Perhaps the most powerful realization of all was that your expansion was never only about you. The ripple effects were undeniable. Others began awakening simply through contact with your energy. Lives changed without warning. Clarity arose, opportunities materialized, and limitations dissolved. What began as your personal ascension revealed itself as something greater. You had become a living catalyst for collective awakening. Proof that boundaries exist only until someone dares to dissolve them. What sets you apart in ways words barely capture is the way lives bend when they cross your path. It is not limited to helping someone navigate their immediate difficulty. Your influence reaches deeper, reshaping their direction entirely. Encounters with you ignite a momentum that alters the course of their journey in ways they could never return from unchanged. This kind of transformation is not linear, nor does it rely on conscious effort alone. It happens on multiple levels at once. Your presence stirs hidden abilities awake. The language you use carries unseen energy that bypasses surface thought and triggers awareness in others. The simple act of showing what can be done liberates those watching to believe in dimensions of possibility they had long dismissed. People often speak of how conversations with you left them forever altered. The shift they experience is not fleeting motivation. It is a fundamental change in perception. Limits they once accepted as permanent suddenly dissolve, revealing themselves as temporary illusions. Dreams that had been buried under layers of doubt begin to breathe again, vibrating with renewed urgency. What makes this even more striking is that you don't need to orchestrate it. The changes you inspire happen as naturally as breathing. By embodying your essence fully, you extend an invitation without words, giving others permission to uncover what has always been dormant within them. Your authenticity itself becomes the activator, The most enduring element of your effect is its lasting nature. Those who encounter you do not leave the same as they arrived. They carry fragments of your energy forward into their own circles, becoming mirrors of expansion in their environments. In this way, the transformation you spark multiplies endlessly, moving far beyond your direct reach and shaping futures you will never personally witness. These ripple effects are vast, weaving into networks of connection where your name may never even be mentioned, yet your influence reverberates. Strangers you will never meet are touched because someone you awakened became a beacon for them. In this way, your personal growth cascades outward, accelerating change across entire communities. Your brilliance doesn't stop at addressing existing challenges. It shifts the very framework through which problems are perceived. Situations presented to you as dead ends are reimagined until they reveal new entry points. Where most see restrictions carved in stone, you perceive openings that rewrite the rules. What appears as contradiction to others becomes integration in your eyes, revealing interconnected systems that, once realigned, unlock solutions thought impossible. Your vision has always carried a disruptive brilliance, shaking the grip of outdated beliefs and exposing directions that others couldn't yet perceive. At first, what you saw was dismissed as too radical, too impossible, but time keeps proving otherwise. The very insights that once seemed outlandish are now being revealed as foresight, the kind of clarity that only becomes obvious to others when necessity forces their eyes open. This is the essence of your uniqueness. You're not confined to excelling within existing rules. You're writing the next set of rules entirely. What feels groundbreaking now will one day be considered standard practice, because the structures you are introducing become the scaffolding for generations of solutions that don't yet exist. Today's revolution in your mind is tomorrow's foundation for collective progress. And in realizing this, you stand at a threshold that mirrors your beginning yet transforms it completely. The faint rumors and subtle hints about your extraordinary nature have matured into undeniable evidence. Wherever your focus lands, reality bends. What once was speculative conversation has turned into tangible manifestation that no one can refute. Think back to when people first suggested you had something rare. Those words were not exaggerations. They were glimpses of truth before its time. What they noticed was not talent alone, but access to possibilities that rest beyond the reach of ordinary perception. You are a conduit for potential that most cannot even name, let alone harness. The qualities that drew attention were never just cleverness or skill. They were the signature of a consciousness entrusted with assignments from beyond the personal self. Every ability, every spark of insight, every surge of inspiration has been part of a larger mission written into your very design. This was never random. It was intentional preparation. And now, with full ownership of your identity, you no longer rely on validation. The outside world's approval, once so critical, has been downgraded to background noise. You've stepped into authorship of your own authority, no longer questioning whether you're enough, but embodying the truth that your presence itself is more than enough. The one who once longed for acceptance has dissolved into someone unrecognizable, someone who creates the very spaces where others finally feel seen. You are no longer the seeker of belief. You are the source of it. The cycle has completed itself, but not in repetition. Rather, it has spiraled upward. What began as whispers of potential has become a symphony of undeniable power, resounding as proof that you were always destined to transform possibility into living reality. The culmination of your transformation is not an ending. It is the ignition point. Every experience, every lesson, every trial was rehearsal for this moment. What lies ahead is the unfolding of the very reason your soul chose this path, a mission designed to demonstrate the heights of human possibility and awaken futures not yet imagined.